Yep.
Minnesota, sunny south, mostly cloudy north, pretty cold areas, west and central areas, and some snow and blowing snow possible in the northwest. This is Minnesota. Have a great day.
This is Talk of the Nation. I'm Mary Louise Kelly in Washington. Neil Conan is away. More than 200,000 women have served in the U.S. military in the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Those women are restricted from direct ground combat. But in wars where the front line is often unclear, even the top military leadership has recognized the policy does not reflect the reality.
I know what the law says, and I know what it requires, but I'd be hard-pressed to say that any woman who serves in Afghanistan today, or who served in Iraq over the last few years, did so without facing the same risks of their male counterparts.
That's Admiral Mike Mullen, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. The Pentagon says it is reviewing policies that define where women can and can't be assigned. And in the next 2 weeks, a congressional commission is expected to recommend that the military lift restrictions on assigning women to direct combat roles. Well, we want to hear from women who have served in the military. How close did you come to combat? Tell us your story. 800-989-8255. And if you want to share your opinion on whether the Pentagon's policy should be changed, do that by sending us an email. You can write to us at talk@npr.org. Or you can join the conversation at our website. Go to npr.org and click on Talk of the Nation. Later in the program, we'll consider a no-fly zone for Libya. But first, I'm joined here in Studio 3A by NPR.
I would like to have a place where there's no flies here either.
She reported
That'd be good.
No-fly zone sounds wonderful, especially in the middle of summer.
Or mosquitoes.
Yeah, no, I'd be no-fly too.
And they could almost fly away here.
You know, mosquitoes,
Be good.
if the government can do that, why not do it to us?
Right?
It's important to really get the words right, because this isn't
why are they giving Libya outbreaks?
prohibiting women from being in combat,
They don't have
but
mosquitoes
making
to
sure
fly
they're
through
not
now.
assigned to units whose
Yes,
primary
it's
mission
desert.
is direct ground combat. And that's what the policy says. It was written in 1994. Then Secretary of Defense Les Aspin put this into place. And I'll, if you'll permit me, I'll just read explicitly what it says. That personnel can be assigned to all positions for which they are qualified, except that women shall be excluded from assignment to units below the brigade level, whose primary mission is to engage in direct ground combat. So that means women can't take part in artillery units. Women can't be part of the infantry. Women can't be part of special forces operations.
But they could be in support roles or logistic roles or medic roles, other things that might very well take them right up to the front.
Exactly, and as you mentioned to this piece, hundreds of thousands of women have served in Iraq and Afghanistan. The Army tells me that as of February 1st of this year, 636 armed women have been wounded in action, more than 100 killed in these wars. So women in uniform are in combat all the time. These are wars without front lines. So anyone who is over these war zones can be caught up in combat. So it doesn't really matter if you're assigned to a combat unit or not. So the big debate is, we need to get the policy that reality, that there's somehow a major disconnect between what's actually happening on the ground and what the policy says.
Okay, well, let's look at some of the efforts that are afoot to try to change the policy. We mentioned this congressional commission that has been looking at it. They're expected to come up very soon with a recommendation. What exactly are they expected to recommend, and what is that actually going to do? Why it's not mandating it?
Yeah. So this is a military commission that was mandated by Congress in 2009. It's called the Military Leadership Diversity Commission. It's comprised of current and retired military officials. And the purpose of the commission was to evaluate, in part, the Pentagon's combat exclusion policy, making sure that women are getting short shrift professionally by being excluded from these units. And after more than a year of meeting regularly, the commission came to the conclusion that it will recommend to the President and Congress that the policy change. They are expected to submit that recommendation by March 15th. And why is this significant? Well, it gets the debate started in a real way, to have a congressional committee saying officially for the first time this policy needs to go. The fact that this isn't just retired folks, there are some very high-up generals involved in this commission who are saying You know, this is something I've been opposed to, but now I've changed my mind. It's important to note that this was not a unanimous decision, though. There were a couple of holdouts, and it gets to some of the
It's a nice beard.
in the debate. We can get into that. There are obviously many people who would say that this policy doesn't reflect reality.
Kind of reminds me of my own.
If they can't say they
Frank the
serve in
Hunter.
such and such combat unit,
Frank the
then
Jaeger.
get them on the fast
The
track.
Jaeger.
There are some dogs, check that box, says, I command the troops in combat. It puts you in front on a really direct route to getting the top job.
So is this like maple?
General or admiral,
Exactly.
whatever it is.
Basswood?
And
Basswood, yeah.
It's a little.
It's similar to maple in the sense that it's
non-linear route
about the same
to this
color.
job. So there's
Okay.
It's a lot softer.
Who say, this isn't fair. We're careerists. We're not women who are just doing it.
Easier to work with?
We want
Yeah.
long-term careers in the
Much
military. This is putting us at a disadvantage.
I think Lyon gave me a piece of maple one time. It was pretty tough.
Oh, there's different kinds of maple. There's soft maple and hard maple. Hard maple is much harder, of course.
Okay.
Creates all kinds of tensions. Sexual harassment can become an issue.
I suppose if this thing was something like hard maple, it would take a heck of a lot longer.
Yeah, I think it would be slower.
Well, the sticking point in this commission, why it wasn't unanimous, was that people had concerns that if you change this policy, how does that affect recruiting? As of now, when a man goes into a recruiting office, says, I want to be part of the Army comes back to him and says, fine, here's your infantry bill. You're going to serve in the infantry. You don't have a choice. This is the job available to you. So what if the policy changes? Is that what it would be like for a woman to go into the recruiting office? She would just be told that she had to serve in a combat function when maybe she didn't want to. People say that would be a problem if it could deter women from going into services.
Well, I guess one of the big questions here is what does the Pentagon leadership say? Is there support for changing this policy among military officials and civilian leadership?
Well, you just heard, not the civilian side, but you did just hear Admiral Mike Military of the Joint Chiefs say that he understands that there's a disconnect.
Understanding there's a disconnect doesn't mean he wants to carry through.
And he hasn't said either way in a public forum.
One chip at a time.
One chip at a time.
Neither has Secretary of Defense Robert
We
Gates.
should have had Steve Cohen.
It's obviously a very sensitive time. We just went through the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
Might have,
This
yeah.
is not a debate. The Pentagon is anxious to have public.
Give Steve a
Giving
job.
out that information, how many chips.
Congress has now ordered the
Yeah, that
Pentagon.
would've kept him busy.
But ordered the Pentagon itself to look into
I think
whether or
they're
not
frustrated.
this combat exclusion policy
Yeah.
needs to change.
Please
We're
frustrate
going to
anyways.
call her in to join our conversation. This is Lydia on the line from Clarkston.
Always means well.
Hi, Lydia, you're on the air.
Hi, I just was calling you to let you know that I served in the United States TV in the Navy, and my main purpose there was to be perimeter security for one of our base camps.
Security perimeter for base camp, okay?
Perimeter security, force protection is what they called us. Basically, we were standing at a gate, patrolling. And I was part of the group, I was guys, and I was one of the very few females that did it, 110-degree weather, and it would have really helped to get that kind of recognition that the males would have gotten, because everything you hear in the news today is about our boys and girls out there, you know, doing all these things and how it affects their lives, but yet you don't hear about the women that go out there and they don't get the recognition that they deserve.
Rachel, this question of recognition, we're doing the job anyway. Why don't we get reserved the same way, recognized the same way that we do?
Well, we should point out the military.
We're gonna put some like classical music over this video.
There are no front lines that.
How about some medieval music?
Do you got any? That'd be like mandolin, mandala.
Harpsichord?
This is something that they didn't see in the for being in combat, for being in these.
What about that,
talking about,
that-
at this point, crime.
Who's the guy that plays the hurdy-gurdy in town?
The military recognized that and created a separate
David.
award called.
Eschlard? Eschlard, yeah.
So it's
That's pretty-
Get him to play?
Assignment non-specific.
Play some tunes for you?
In the infantry. So there are some moves to kind of correct the imbalance, but, you know, the call also points to this kind of cultural.
Yeah, it's a lot of work getting a sculpture like this
cultural
done.
attitudes in the military. And
Takes forever.
this is not insignificant. A big
Doesn't look
part of
easy.
the debate isn't about whether or not women can do this work. It's
Each
whether or
little
not
chip,
they
you know,
should.
takes
That there is somehow a general.
30 seconds, 10 seconds, 20 seconds.
1 second.
1 second.
Of women, potentially mothers,
It all adds up.
wives serving in combat. And
To one giant leap.
People who are very high up in the military, who just say this isn't work that women should be doing.
Okay, thanks so much for that call, Lydia, we appreciate it. Let me take another call here. This is Audrey on the line from Fort Bragg in North Carolina. Hi, Audrey.
Hi, how are you?
Great, thanks for calling.
Wonderful. So I was a platoon leader in Iraq before, during, and after the surge, and I led a military police platoon, definitely in combat.